C-Bus.
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing excellent. It's the first full week of spring here in beautiful Central Ohio. And I'm just excited to be out here working again. You know, the temperatures, they've been up and down like they usually are in springtime, up and down more than my bobber on the lake, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm excited to be out today. It's beautiful. It's almost 70 degrees. Unfortunately, it's a little windy, but hey, I'm not going to be picky. You know, I figured I'd stop here for a second just to cover a couple things. I get this question a lot, so I thought maybe we could talk about springtime seeding. So, you know, I get the question a lot, is it better to seed in the spring or the fall? Well, the answer is yes. Actually, the answer, if you were to ask me, probably 75% of the time I would say fall. But you have to seed when you have to seed. So sometimes you can't really make that call until it's time to make that call. And what I mean is, in your situation, if you have bare spots in the springtime and, you know, not just thin areas, but I'm talking bare spots where it's dirt or, you know, for one reason or another, you lost a lot of grass in the summer and didn't get it fixed in the fall, or you lost it in the fall for one reason or another, or it was a hard winter, or there's dog spots, whatever it might be, should you seed in the springtime? You hear a lot of people say, you know, you have to seed in the fall by such and such a date. Well, this video is going to be about springtime seeding. So from that perspective, I'm not really going to cover all the pros and cons or why you should seed it in the fall or why you should seed in the spring. I'm going to just go over springtime specifically. So what we're looking at right here behind me is beautiful soccer fields. These are very well maintained, irrigated. They keep up on them really well here. They spend a lot of money on these fields and they're impressive to look at. So let's talk about a couple reasons why you might want to seed in the springtime rather than in the fall. And then we'll talk about some reasons why you really can be a little bit complicated when you seed in the springtime. So first of all, let's start right here. Well, I know it's tough to find some bad areas in something that's maintained this well, but if you look right here in front of us, we've got some areas that are just bare dirt. Of course, this probably happened, you know, from traffic or something like that, and it hasn't recovered and it's just bare and muddy. So in a situation like this, to use it as an example, this is a small area, but if your lawn is looking like this, or you have areas in your lawn that look like this, well, if you don't seed it somehow in the springtime, then you're going to deal with these patches. It's going to take a long time for this Kentucky bluegrass to fill in right there and really recover these areas. So if you don't recover the grass seed in areas that are bare and dead like this, well, then you're probably going to get weeds that grow in there, a lot of unwanted growth and that sort of thing. So this is one prime example of why you'd want to do some seeding in the springtime, and that's just out of necessity. If you don't seed where it's dead or bare, it's just going to be dead and bare, and you're going to end up battling weeds and other things more than you'll be tending to your grass. So that's one benefit of seeding in the springtime. That being said, if you have to seed in the springtime, or if you want to seed in the springtime, your best bet is to do it as early as possible. The reason for that is because it takes grass, depending on the variety of grass, about a week to say 20 days to germinate. Now in the springtime, soil temperatures are going to be cooler, so those germination rates are going to be on the top side, or they're going to take longer you know, than they might when it's warmer in the year. Also, you want to do it early because let's say you seed the 1st of April and your grass starts to come in the 2nd week of April, and it doesn't fill in very good until the 1st week of May. Well, now you're at May and your grass is new grass, and it hasn't had very much time to mature when the temperature abruptly switched is come around Memorial Day at the end of May. So going into the beginning of June, the temperatures can get very hot. New grass, the new grass that you've planted, has not had a time to mature properly or root deeply. So it makes it very difficult for the grass to deal with the heat. You have to make sure that you have plenty of water on the grass, and it takes a lot of extra care through the summer just to get to the fall. What I find a lot of times is that springtime seeding will require some additional touch-up seeding in the fall, because you'll suffer some loss from drought or heat during the summer because you have new virgin grass going into the hot part of the year. In essence, you won't have that much time to mature the grass before it has to go into its summer battle. So when you seed in the springtime, you want to get it in early. Something to look out for there is the temperatures go up and down a lot. So you might get a real good stretch where it's 65 to 70 degrees and the seed's coming in, and then all of a sudden you get another stretch where it's freezing or just above freezing, and that can slow it down. It can even damage some of your new grass seedlings. So that's something to consider when you have to do, or when you want to do, seeding in the springtime. So if you want your lawn to look like this in the summertime, then you have to get to work pretty darn early in the spring to make that happen. Now, let's look at some other examples of why you might want to seed in the springtime. Well, right here is one situation where springtime seeding might be more beneficial and effective than you'll find in the fall. Let's have a look. As you see, this customer's backyard is heavily wooded, and this time of year in the early spring you can actually beat the leaves on the trees. So even though a lawn like this would normally have grass loss through the summer because of shade, heat, and drought from the tree roots, you can find that seeding in the springtime can be beneficial here, because just like in a forest, you'll find that everything greens up from the ground surface upwards. So what I mean is that if you look in nature, you'll find that plants that are low to the ground will get blooms and get green before the majority of the trees have a chance to get any leaves on them. So that can be beneficial when you're doing grass seeding because it gives you time to grow your new grass seed in before you have to suffer the shade from the tree limbs or from the tree leaves. Also, another thing that can be beneficial when you seed in the springtime, if you're in an environment like this, is that of course, if you would seed in the fall, you would have to deal with all of the leaves and the debris that the trees put down in the fall. So when you're trying to get your seed in, you have to keep the ground clear so it doesn't get suffocated by the leaves. And you don't have to worry about all that extra traffic from the leaf cleanup. So this is one example of when springtime seeding could be very beneficial compared to that in the fall. Well, right here is another example of why you might want to seed in the springtime rather than the fall. So let's take a look at the situation behind me. Here's another example that you can find when you have an open, expansive area like we're looking at right here. It can be beneficial to seed in the springtime rather than the fall. Why is that? Well, it's pretty simple. Water is the reason. It's not practical or possible most of the time to water an area of this size. There's no irrigation, hand watering's impossible, and there's not even access to water in a lot of situations like this. So when you have a large area And in the fall, it always tends to be more dry than it is in the springtime. So you can take advantage of natural watering when you seed in the springtime rather than the fall. So anytime you might have acreage or a large open expansive area, you can consider seeding that in the springtime and having good success, maybe better success than what you would have in the fall, just due to natural moisture. Of course, anytime you do seeding, moisture is key. The amount of water that you can get on the seed and the amount of moisture retention that you have with your seeding is always key to your success. So therefore, in the springtime, you can get more water a lot of times naturally than you will in the fall. Now let's talk about some of the complications you can have with springtime seeding. If your lawn is thick and lush and it just had a few patchy areas you're trying to take care of, I wouldn't be terribly concerned. I'd go ahead and seed. I'd make the regular chemical adjustments. Oh, what's that? Chemical adjustments? Well, yeah, here's the problem. If your lawn isn't so nice and it needs a lot of seeding, well, whenever you seed in the springtime, you'll have to bypass or alter some of your springtime chemical applications. What that means is, most of the time you cannot put down a pre-emergent when you're going to do your seeding. The pre-emergents, the whole point of a pre-emergent is to keep primarily crabgrass seed from germinating. So if you're trying to seed your lawn and you put a pre-emergent down, well, then that can hinder, stop, or at least complicate your seeding process so that you don't have as good of results. Also in the springtime, usually your second application of your lawn care treatment plan is a broadleaf killer. So this is usually in the form of a spray. Well, it's usually done somewhere between April and the middle of May. And most of the time, if you've seeded early, that's just when your seed has come in. Your seed is not very tough at that point. So any type of spray chemicals you put on it can damage your new seed. So that's step 1 and step 2 of your normal chemical treatment plan that you'll have to substitute with either a straight feeding or a starter fertilizer. If you have something like this behind me, where it's pretty thin and you're not doing any weed control, that can open you up to more weeds that you'll have to deal with all summer long. So you have to consider and weigh the benefits of springtime seeding with the cons of springtime seeding. So let's summarize a bit. If your goal is to have a really good grass in the summer, or good grass at all, and you have bare spots in the springtime and your yard really needs attention, then you better get to seeding. Now, if you had crabgrass and weeds in the past, yes, you're going to have crabgrass and weeds. The problem is, unless you have grass in those bare spots and you keep killing the weeds and killing the crabgrass, all you're going to have is more bare spots. So if you want something other than bare spots, then you're going to have to put some seed in. My recommendation is to go ahead and seed when you need to. Worry about the weeds and the crabgrass later after you've thickened your lawn up. Once you get nice, thick, consistent turf like you see here, you don't have to worry as much about weeds and crabgrass because this turf will not allow those weed seeds and crabgrass to get down to the soil and germinate. Most of the time, a nice, healthy, thick lawn will be pretty much weed-free by itself, just because it'll suffocate out any unwanted growth. So hopefully this video has helped you weigh the benefits and the cons of seeding in the springtime and make your decision easier. You can also see my other videos about seeding in the fall, and you can see all kinds of projects that we have done with seeding and other situations where you might wonder if you should be seeding at the right time of year. So good luck with your lawn. Please subscribe to my videos and keep watching, share my videos, and ring the bell. Talk to you later.